Hello, folks, and welcome to Lindens of the Zoo Night Show. I've never been any good at intros. This is show 1355.
Yep.
Oh, God. I'm your host, JohnnyHellcat. With us are minions Sanguine.
Good evening, all.
TerryDiamantis.
Hey, everyone.
And with us also is the Hate Camel.
I can testify that Johnny is no good at intros.
It's just a matter of developing your own every time.
Well, most of the time, Camel screws me up.
You gotta stay on your toes, dude.
I totally blame him for 35% of the screw-ups.
So Camel gives you the same treatment that we gave Prospero, is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I'll give him credit. Johnny usually does come up with some pretty good titles, though. He nails the title game, but the intros, oof.
It's something to be desired. Oh boy! So how are you guys doing today?
Doing grand, and yourself?
Not too bad. It's pretty busy in town. It's actually my. Let's see what years. It's my 4-year dating anniversary.
Oh, very nice.
with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So we just went out to dinner, and she got screwed over because the place that we ordered food from, they don't have any French fries.
Oh.
Which, well, it's one of her things to look forward to when she goes out to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's
Did they at least have freedom fries so you could?
No, they just had potato wedges.
Okay.
See, I was just about to ask, was it a place that should have had French fries, or was it like, God damn it, this Chinese restaurant doesn't have French fries?
Actually, we could have gone to the Chinese restaurant and gotten French fries.
Yeah, Chinese American place, a lot of them do have like French fries and fried chicken.
No, my dad was vehemently against. You go to a Chinese restaurant, you're ordering Chinese food. That's all there is to it.
That would be like basic sort of courtesy.
Yeah, this isn't McDonald's. You order a burger, and I'm going to slap you in the back of the head. And
it's one of those things that if I go to a Chinese restaurant and I see that it has French fries, fried chicken, and I don't know, hamburgers, I'm going, okay, I need to find a different Chinese restaurant, most likely. Because that always seems to be a really bad sign for the quality of the food. Chinese restaurant.
Order them. Like if I went to a Chinese restaurant and they're like, "Here, you can have a cheeseburger," like, all right.
God damn it! God damn it, Terry.
I wonder if you can get a big old cheeseburger and drip some orange sauce on there.
Apparently, you two are the reason those places exist.
I had some leftover orange sauce from Panda Express, and I made a burger and just dripped that on there, and it was actually pretty good.
It's in my defense, I would only do that if I was taken to a Chinese. If I wanted a cheeseburger, I wouldn't go to a Chinese restaurant and say, "Hey, got any cheeseburgers?" Mm-hmm. But if my family sort of organized a big dinner and we happened to go to a Chinese restaurant and I saw cheeseburgers on the menu, yeah, I'll take one.
God damn it. Yeah. So when you use the orange sauce, did you use it as a glaze for the burger, or did you just add it on like you would ketchup at the end?
I just added on ketchup like you would.
Because you can do a lot of glazed burgers that it can turn out rather lovely if you put them in at the right time. You get kind of those almost bitter, dark caramel flavors mixing in with the burger.
Yeah.
And rather lovely.
Yeah, I tried I tried using it kind of like where you like cook it with the sauce in there, and primarily just because I'm like, well, I wonder if this would work, because you kind of, instead of just like the juices come out and some of the sauce will go in. At least that was my theory. It did work out pretty good, but cleanup was the hassle.
Oh yeah. Anything really sugary like that in a pan, it becomes an absolute bitch of cleanup. Especially, have you ever burned sugar?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. For those who don't know, one of the easiest ways that you can make a smoke bomb is making something that will very quickly burn sugar. Because sugar puts out a fuck ton of smoke. And it just becomes this insanely difficult to clean black sludge that then becomes just crust on everything.
See, I'm starting to think here, Terry, that the more I talk to Sanguine, the more I realize our palates would probably be more in line with his dad than him or Johnny.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that I pay other people to do the cooking and therefore the cleaning. It's like, no, I want none of this.
See, if your palate's more in line with my father, does that mean that you're a big fan of tinned tuna fish and bacos?
I don't know. I like tinned tuna. I don't know.
Yes, on the tuna, no on the bacos. But I mean, I could eat Domino's or McDonald's for days on end and not get bored.
I did. Like,
I was gonna say.
But what are bacos? Because I've never heard of them.
It's fake bacon bits.
Yeah, they're
we had a
petroleum
discussion last week.
Yep. They're petroleum byproduct that is shaped to look like crumbled bacon, but it doesn't do a very good job at looking like it, and it does an even worse job of tasting like it.
Well, I probably wouldn't like it then.
You get the faintest taste of a bacon flavor, and then
but I do
gone.
Like tinned tuna. I've got no problem with tinned tuna.
Oh yeah, there's uses for tinned tuna that are absolutely beautiful. Like I make onigiri with tinned tuna.
I just make tuna sandwiches.
It's delicious. Yeah, onigiri is effectively a tuna sandwich, only it's in a bowl of rice rather than on bread.
Okay.
Because it's a good mayo, some of the tuna. You can mix in some additional ingredients. Like when I make my onigiri, I mix in some sriracha or another chili blend of some sort. Make sure that it's nice and incorporated in. Pack that inside a thing of rice, and it's good eating.
Sounds like more cleanup, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you could just write that down so I can send it to all the restaurants and see if they'll do that.
If you have a good Japanese place, they probably have some onigiri on the menu.
Probably. I'll have to check DoorDash and menu log, see what comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm the only one in my family who eats sushi.
At
least from here.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have to use like the soft A when you order onigiri? Like, is that gonna cause a racial strife if you order it incorrectly?
No, you can just say onigiri. You don't have to worry about making it onigira or anything like that. It's.
I'm not gonna get cancelled for using the hard R.
Nah.
Oh, Negro Yuri.
But yeah, it's delicious, and you can get a bunch of different forms from like spicy tuna, spicy salmon. You can get ube. Have any of you had ube?
No.
Nope.
No.
So ube is purple Japanese sweet potato. It's not as sweet as an American sweet potato, but it still has a nice sweetness to it, vibrantly purple. And you can get there's a bunch of desserts that are made with ube. One of them is that you can get like a mashed ube, which they sweeten a little bit more, stuffed into some onigiri. That's really good. You can also get, so you have ube, and then you have ume and umeboshi. Ume is plum. Umeboshi is this salted plum, fermented salted plum, effectively. That's really good as well. You can get that in onigiri. You can get bonito flakes that are soaked in soy sauce, then formed up and stuck in onigiri. Really tasty as well. There's a whole bunch of different sorts.
Doesn't beat unagi though.
Ooh, unagi's delicious.
Is that the fancy way of saying eel?
Yep.
Yep.
And I actually learned that from Friends, the TV show.
Ah,
Because I think it was Ross was convinced that he knew this like martial art, and he's going unagi, and like trying to come across as like tough or something, and then someone's like, that means eel, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah, unagi's delicious. Also, there was this one weird thing that happened to a friend and a friend, of course, because that's how most stories end up going. But it was apparently unagi is associated with sexual potency.
Oh, okay.
So, according to the friend who was telling you this story, by way of where the guy who told him it, guy was having some issues in his relationship and went to a sushi place by himself just to kind of eat and zone out. Sushi guy, or the sushi chef, started talking to him and figured out what the problem was and served up a thing of unagi for him and just leaned over and went, 1 unagi, great power. 2 unagi, greater power. 3 unagi, talk shit.
Oh,
So
man.
that just became a running joke in that group of friends. Every time that we hit sushi or every time someone was looking down, just 3 unagi, Shino talk shit. But I heard that you had a article that you were talking about earlier, John.
I do have a couple pulling from the other format.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can share this here.
Did you go to Indians?
No, I did not go to Indians.
Okay.
I went to our Discord.
That was our thing, Johnny.
I went to our Discord for this one. Aztec Warrior Foundation fights to keep the SDSU's Aztec Warrior mascot.
Okay.
Let's see, San Diego State University announced the next step to develop its new Aztec iconography in June, but the Aztec Warrior Foundation says its efforts to save the SDSU Aztec Warrior mascot. SDSU retired the use of the pre-2018 references to Aztec Warrior as a mascot in June. And in June, President De La Torres announced the university will be retiring the Aztec spirit leader and are retiring warrior-related imagery related to the human representation.
Huh.
This is a long article, so I'm not going to go through too much of it.
So they're going to get rid of that. Are they going to replace it with anything, or are they going to have like maybe a cartoon representation? I hear Chief Wahoo's free.
Nice. Yeah, this is just reminding me of, you guys remember back when they were debating getting rid of the Florida Seminoles, right?
Although his name was Monty Montezuma, so I can see at least a renaming. But,
Yeah. Montgomery Zuma.
I remember talking to Prospero, but she brought up the them trying to get rid of the Seminoles at one point, and the
Yeah.
Seminoles actually standing with the schools like, no,
Yeah.
we like it.
The Seminole tribe wrote a letter and went, "Don't you fucking dare. We like it. We like the reference."
Let's see.
So it sounds a lot like that, where it's people that are actually descended from Aztecs, because I'm assuming the Aztec Warrior Foundation.
Yeah, and
is-
this right here, it says, so the Aztec Warrior Foundation said removing human representation goes against President De La Torre's original support for interim President Sally Rocha's decision to keep the Aztec Warrior.
Mhm.
So it sounds like the moment the cat went away, the mouse started playing.
Yeah, and the very next part of that is that apparently in 2018, they did the Aztec Identity Task Force report, which, what the fuck? What? God damn it. That's a thing, apparently. But when they did that report, apparently the report was even going, yeah, it's doing no harm. There's no issue with this. But they're going against that, the previous decision, and apparently this group of Aztec descendants in deciding that, no, we need to get rid of it because it's racist or something.
It's like, yeah, we're going to get rid of it because it's racist?
Yeah.
It's like, are you asking me or telling me? Like,
That always seems to be the way of that argument, though, where it's, well, why are you getting rid of it? Because it's racist. How is it racist? It just is. That is not a justification of how it's racist. That does not tell us anything. Can you put words behind this explanation or to actually give one of why it's racist?
I'm surprised they didn't just go cultural appropriation. Like that's their standard. There's like, oh no, it's appropriation. That's why it's racist.
Yeah, and just the fact that we keep on having this, well, it's cultural appropriation bullshit. If the other culture is still allowed to use it, it isn't stealing that from the culture. All it's doing is, hey, there's this thing that they do, we're also going to do it.
It's not stealing, it's culture piracy in the same way as software piracy. The original is still there. We're just making a copy of it.
Yeah.
it's peer-to-peer.
And it's not even as bad as the software piracy, because with the software piracy, you can at least argue, well, they deserve to be compensated for their work. Okay.
Yeah.
This isn't the current group of people that are doing the work. This is something that is already done, and people are just going, hey, I like that. I want to do it as well.
Yes.
It's not cultural appropriation for me to make onigiri, because I'm not preventing Japanese people from making onigiri. It's, I like the fucking flavors of it, so I make the goddamn things. They're delicious.
And Jen is asking if your avatar talks when you do, Johnny.
Yes, it does.
It has
That's
flappy
the
mouth
point of it.
parts.
And it stares at you creepily.
I disagree. I think it's awesome. I don't know what Camel's complaining about.
But yeah.
Stop it, Johnny.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
The constant argument of cultural appropriation. No, that's cultural exchange. And
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone be able to explain what a meaningful difference would be between cultural appropriation and cultural exchange.
One has you respecting the other culture. The other one is disrespecting the other culture. And they get to decide whether you're being respectful or not you.
Yeah, and the disrespecting includes things like making food because you enjoy the flavor of it.
Oh, that's the
And-
most racist thing you can do. Almost as racist as wearing the wrong hat or dress.
It's
Or just
going-
happening to have a red hat and being randomly
Oh
assaulted.
no! Don't do that! Don't do that.
It's going straight to full-blown sectarian violence, effectively, when it comes down to it. Which is just goddamn infuriating, and it's going backwards. How do people not realize that's going backwards?
Because they call it progress.
It's only progress when you're progressing, not when
No, but they
words
changed
have
the
meanings,
name.
you fucks.
They called it progress, and that makes it progress, even if it's actually a regression. They changed the word. It's now progress.
Let's see if I can culturally appropriate while not completely blocking my screen.
Nice.
So let's go.
It just
There we go.
very nice.
Color's a bit off, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say
Works.
you're not black anymore.
I think,
Well-
Did you forget to vote for Biden?
Well, no. See, here's the thing. In Western cultures, black tends to be assigned with evil, right?
Yes.
In a lot of Eastern cultures, the colors actually end up swapping to a certain extent. At least in certain depictions, like in Chinese masks, for instance. White is not associated with good in the same way that it is in Western culture. So it might still be that he's evil because now he's white with the shogun hat.
No,
Shogun
I stand by my claim. He just forgot to vote for Joe Biden, and it only just kicked in.
Only takes place when you're wearing a Japanese helmet. That's a problem. In order
Must
to figure
be.
out if someone's actually black or not after not voting for Joe Biden, you have to go around with a shogun helm and okay, he stayed black. He must have voted for Biden. Oh my God, he just turned lily white. Okay, he voted for Trump.
Well, I mean, at least the
it's a MAGA shogun.
the remix to I Think I'm Turning Japanese will have a fat beat.
I like that song.
I mean, look on the bright side, gentlemen. I saw some news that crossed my timeline that
Do you have all the Axis helmets?
Der Curtin. Yeah, there's yeah, these ones, and then let's see. I think there's a cyborg one here.
I don't remember the Italians being cyborgs during World War II.
We are kitten. Yeah, I'm going back.
And Jenna, he wouldn't have voted for Teddy. He would have voted for Wilson. Teddy actually had principles.
I think
Wilson-
I would have voted for Teddy Roosevelt
Oh yeah,
back then.
Teddy Roosevelt's fucking awesome. I love Teddy Roosevelt. He gets
I would have voted for abstain because I wasn't American even back then.
Yep. Teddy Roosevelt retroactively gets a fair bit of shit because he was a progressive of the time. But the thing is that the shit that he was advocating for was not really different from what the Republicans as a whole were advocating for and what the Republicans as a whole are still pretty much advocating for. The thing is that Teddy Roosevelt accomplished a good chunk of what he was trying to do. So later Republicans went, yeah, we're in favor of this. We wanted him to do it. we want it to stay this way. But now suddenly that's regressive just because they accomplished what they wanted to do and didn't decide they wanted to do something in addition. It's the infuriating thing about when people just identify as, we're the progressives. That's only a good thing if you aren't fucking up something that's already good in favor of something that's worse than what you currently have.
You know, I wouldn't doubt that in his own election, Biden would have voted for Hillary.
True.
That would have been funny.
Forgetting that was 4 years ago.
Like I said, my money's still on he pulled that lever for Wilson.
Let's do it for Herbert Hoover.
I think he just wrote, I think he just wrote, you know the thing at the bottom of the ballot paper.
Sadly, that would be appropriately counted as a private vote.
Writes in, black kids touch my legs.
I learned a lot about roaches that summer, and I learned a lot about kids jumping on my lap. And I love kids jumping on my lap.
Hashtag not creepy.
I still don't know how that wasn't a bigger thing than it was, because how the fuck do you even say that and not have someone go immediately, oh, shut up, what the fuck?
That's probably why they kept him away from debates.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just on what he's been randomly spouting out of his Alzheimer's riddled mouth.
How many Republicans think we drink the blood of babies, or whatever he said?
that was beautiful and just out of goddamn left field. Just what the fuck? Especially since it was so fucking sudden as well.
Yeah.
There was no workup. It was just immediately he gets asked a question, how many Republicans think that we drink the blood of children? What the fuck?
I forget what the question he was asked was. He was like, are there any Democrats that believe such and such? And then he just turns around and goes, well, how many Republicans believe we drink the blood of babies? He's like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, psycho, that's not what I asked.
And yeah, apparently Biden also just claimed that he used to drive 18-wheelers.
He was the busiest D-legal student ever.
I think D is a bit on the charitable side.
He wouldn't have got a law degree with an F.
Depends on how much dick he was willing to suck.
It's a random question, but how come there's no E? Like, you go straight from D to F in grades. Why is that?
Because F was failure, and now there are certain school systems that have gone, well, F is sounding too harsh because F means failure. So we're instead going to give E's for effort.
Oh, God.
I'm going to give you an E.
Your effort is resulting in failure, son.
Yep.
So I'm going to give you E's in this class, except for in math, because you, in fact, are a failure.
It's like George Carlin did a whole segment on soft language and how it ruins everything.
Mm-hmm. It is just constantly we're trying to make it sound less bad when someone fucks up. And no, when you fuck up, you should be told, damn, you fucked up.
But if you don't get told that you fucked up, then you don't know that you need to improve. Like, if you get, oh, well, that was a good effort. It's like, yeah, I did good. No, you fucked up. You failed. Do better next time. And like, if you fail and get told that you did good, then you're going to just keep doing the same wrong thing and never get any better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in order to have any sort of growth, you need to be held on effectively this knife's edge of comfort and discomfort in order to be able to actually grow.
Yeah.
And we have a massive problem of people are kept on either extreme side rather than just in that middle point. They're either kept in such ridiculous comfort that they never actually develop. They never grow a skill. They never grow a fucking backbone or any sort of resilience. Or they get tossed to the far side of discomfort, and there's no chance for them to develop because every time that they try to do anything, they're immediately kicked in the teeth and rubbed back down to the ground.
That's actually why a lot of people have trouble with the fighting games, is because it's one-on-one competition, and if you go up against someone who is like much better than you, then you die before you even get a chance to realize what you're doing wrong, and it's just over before it starts, more or less. And so that's what puts a lot of people off playing competitively. Is like, well, how can I get better if I don't stay alive long enough to do anything? So
I remember my first. I'm like, okay, I'll try doing Mortal Kombat X online. Whatever, you know, I'm gonna lose. Like I've always lost. I think my record to this day is 0-14.
Okay.
And I'm like, whatever. I don't care. And I picked my first match 0-0. I go, okay, ranked. We'll go ranked match because that'll put me up against someone who, you know, is about equally as good as I am. And the first person they put me up against was 184-12.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And he started like as soon as it was character select, he just starts laughing. He's like, "Man, you're gonna die." And I'm like, "Well, it's a good thing I have good insurance. Thanks, Obama." And I heard him laughing, and I just like went in for the attack after that. I got the first hit, but that was pretty much about it.
Yeah, and this is also the reason why I have a real big problem with a lot of the educational system, because we keep on trying to have this, well, we can't split them up into too many different classes, or else you'll have the low class and you'll have the high class, and the people in the low class won't feel good about themselves. Well, maybe the people in the low class need a different level of stress. They need a different point which they're being held in that comfort to discomfort, because something that is perfectly fine for someone who's gifted in math will be ridiculously difficult to the point where someone who isn't gifted will just completely roll over and die. And if you stick the person who's gifted in math in just a stock standard math class for their age group, they're just going to be bored to piss, and they won't actually learn how to learn. They won't
That's actually what
put
happened to
forth
me.
any effort.
That is actually why I dropped out of university, is because all through high school I never had to try. High school required such little effort that when I got to university, I tried to do that, and you can't. Obviously, you can't. Anyone with any common sense will know that doesn't work. But I didn't know how to do it any other way. It was like I just got overwhelmed and dropped out.
Well, there's such a vast degree of difficulty switch. Like, it just spikes.
Oh, massively.
Because high school doesn't get you ready for college. And I don't think it ever has.
Well, the thing is that I'm not so sure that it spikes as much as it seems like it does. I think a large part of the issue is that when you're talking about certain points of math, so everyone here would agree that arithmetic, if that, probably none of us had real problem with arithmetic, right? Some people do, but none of us probably did.
Geometry and quadratics. That's about it.
Yep. Then if you've never had to actually try to learn arithmetic, when you get to the point where you're learning algebra, that's where a lot of people start having issues, which is why there's the number of people that say, yeah, I was all good with math until they started adding letters.
I never got that. I never understood why the letters put people off, because it just made sense to me. But
Yep.
Yeah. I guess different people learn different ways and understand different things. But yeah, at the time, I was like, okay, this makes sense. And then everyone else is like, oh man, this is insane.
Yeah, because if you have a knack to a certain degree, and you get to algebra, and algebra is still making sense, so you don't have to really try to learn algebra.
Yeah.
And then you get to geometry, and let's say you don't have to learn geometry. You don't have to try to learn geometry. And you go into trig, and you don't have to try to learn trig. The first time that you have to try to learn something, you have that, oh God, I was all good until quadratics.
Yeah.
And you have a problem from that point on because you don't know how to learn. You never learned how to learn in that
No, that
subject.
was exactly what the problem was with me, is I never had to learn how to learn, as you say. So I coasted through high school, and then I got to university. It's like, oh fuck, I'm not sure what's going on anymore.
Coincidentally, the pit of people who enjoy quadratics is over there.
Nice. But you end up with, like, constantly in education where people were understanding perfectly fine, and they were kept at a level that was entirely comfortable for them until they reached a point, and it's normally somewhere in high school or college, where they get their first bit of discomfort. And if it takes until high school or college, it is really goddamn difficult to then learn how to learn.
Yes.
You're best learning how to learn when you're little.
I agree.
And that's the problem. We need to keep people on that comfort level where they actually have to try. Which, in order to do that, we need a bunch of different levels of every course so that we can sort out the people that, yeah, they're having trouble with basic arithmetic. So we're going to take that a little bit slower, make sure that they get arithmetic, make sure that they learn how to learn math at that point, and then they'll pick up later on, unless it's a full-blown developmental issue like, what is it? There's a specific name for dyslexia for numbers.
Dyscalculia,
Yes. If you have dyscalculia, yeah, you have a much lower chance of attaining high-level math proficiency.
Dyscalculia?
Like yeah.
But if you don't have dyscalculia, then once you learn how to learn, you start picking up pace because it becomes easier to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But you have those people that need that really basic math and need practice on that. Then you have other people that you tell them that, oh yeah, when you multiply 11 by 11, you get 121, and they go, oh yeah, that makes sense because of X, Y, Z, and they're just hit the ground running. Well, you can't just keep them going with those basic multiplication tables. You have to go further than that. And it might be that you have to hit the point where you're starting to do long division. And that's the point where they start to stall out and they have to figure out, okay, how do I do long division? And they learn math by doing that.
Yeah.
Or it might be the point where you have to start adding in variables. Or it might be the point where you have to add in quadratics. And once you get to that point, that's where you start to kind of hold that person there and you go, okay,
I think
How about-
I think my older boy, yeah, he was just getting into just pretty much the basics of kind of like a pre-algebra.
Mhm.
I had him do one of the factoring binomials things with me that I was doing in college algebra.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, I want you guys to help me with this, but you don't have to get anything right. Like, you just guess, and if you're right, I'll let you know. If you're wrong, I'll let you know, whatever.
Yep.
And then
Just try to work through it.
I will show you how to do this. And showed him, it was I think it was just a basic x squared plus 2x, and then the one next one was x plus x minus 2. One was x minus 2, and yes, I can't quite remember. It had
a simple one like x plus 2 times x minus 2.
Yeah.
So you get x squared, then cancel out the middle, and minus 4.
First outside, inside, last. Like you would.
Foil.
And then I had him pretty much guess what the answer would be as of that. And really they got like the first and the last one, they got like nailed it. And then like trying to get them with outside inside is really where they struggled, because they didn't know what they were doing. So but the fact that they, I asked them to do it, and they're like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? And then by the time they're like, do we have to keep doing this? I'm like, no. And he's like, good, because I'm not gonna.
It's the whole comfort level thing reminds me of an episode of Red Dwarf where, like, Rimmer is like this really sort of weaselly sort of loser guy, and he meets his alternate universe counterpart, Ace Rimmer, who's like excellent at everything. And he finds out the only difference between them is one of them got held back a grade and the other didn't. And so he's convinced that he's only a loser because he got held back a grade. And like he spends the whole episode bitching and moaning and whining. And it turns out Ace is the one who got held back a grade. And like that forced him to sort of improve, because, the embarrassment of being left behind, but also getting a second chance to learn everything. That's what made him the brilliant person that he ended up as. I thought that was kind of a cool parallel. It was like, yeah, because the normal Rimmer was not given the sort of chance to really sort of internalize the lessons, whereas Ace Rimmer was forced to, and so that's what ended up being the difference. And I thought,
it was progressed too quickly.
Yes.
And like I said, that happens constantly, where people end up progressing before they learn a lesson, or they're kept doing the same thing that they figured out the first time that it was done, and they went, oh yeah, it clicks, makes sense, I know what I'm doing. And then for the next 2 weeks, it's okay, now this same exact sort of problem, what's the answer? And they already fucking got it with the first lesson. Move on already. Which is why you need that division of classes. You need not just, this is the remedial, this is the standard, this is the G&T. No, you need like 4 or 5 G&Ts, and you need like 4 and 5 remedials. And then, you have your standard. And you shift the kids throughout all those classes so that if they're having trouble, they go first to remedial 1. If they're still having trouble, remedial 2. If they're still having remedial, so on and so forth. If they are just absolutely blowing through things and they're getting bored, start bumping them up.
Yeah, I think the only problem is going to be sort of a staffing issue. Like you need a lot of teachers to have that many classes. So I could see why that might be the ideal, but I can't see a lot of schools actually implementing that because it's going to be very expensive.
Yeah, which the other way that it can be done, rather than just having a shit ton of those classes, is I had an absolutely amazing math teacher at one point, and the way that they did their class was you would first show in and they would have warm-up problems on the board. So you'd do the warm-up problems, and then they would go, okay, here are the answer to the warm-up problems. If you got problems 1, 2, and 4 done, and you got the right answers on those, but you failed on 3, 5, and 6, then go to these problems and work on those problems. If you got these right, go to these problems and work on those. If you got all of them right, go to these problems and work on those.
It's a good system. I like that.
Yeah, and he would have it where it was the class. There were like 30 or something of us in his class, so a decently large math class.
Yeah.
But then he would break us up into those different sections, and then he would work with the people that got number 1 wrong, and they didn't get anything else right. He would work through number 1, going through all the explanations. If someone had problems, he wouldn't just repeat the same explanation that he did a couple seconds ago. He would go, okay, so that didn't make sense. Let's try this explanation.
But the key is you've got to say the same thing slower and louder and keep getting slower and keep getting louder until they understand.
That seems to be the way that most math teachers end up doing it.
It also works for speaking foreign languages. So if you're in a foreign country and they don't speak English, slow and loud, and just keep decreasing the speed and increasing the volume, they'll get it eventually.
And maybe add an O at the end, too.
Oh, yeah. Good call.
So it reminds me of Henry Cho's stand-up. And he's talking about going to Korea with his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And this gal walks up to him. And he's like, of all the Koreans to walk up to on the bus, like she had to come up to me. And she looked at him and gets right in his face and goes, is this the bussy that go-see, down-see, town-see?
Yeah.
Nice.
And he just looks around and goes, reckon so.
Very nice. But yeah, that math teacher just had the class set up perfectly. And he kept everyone in that class in that area where they were just having enough trouble. And with every block of questions, he would have the really easy ones, the really hard ones, and the kind of in between based on those different groupings. And he would hit all of the questions as the class went on. Those that had the greatest trouble, he would end up working through most of the problems with them as they went. And then if someone stalled out on a question, he would get to the question that they're working on and help them along with it and continue on. So he set up one classroom of 30-something children so that he had that gradation.
Yeah.
There's ways of doing it, even with just a single teacher, but we just have such a, well, you can't have anyone feel like they aren't doing well enough, that we fuck people over.
Oh, very much so.
And what's worse is not only do you have the people saying, well, we can't let people know when they're falling behind, but we also have to make sure that no one gets too far ahead. You should never slow someone down. You should always be willing to work with the person who's going a bit faster and go, okay, this is clicking for you. So I'm not going to force you to listen to the lecture on this. Instead, you work on that.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good system. I think that teacher is very, very good.
Yeah. He's one of the best teachers that I've ever had. And apparently his father was the same way, because I had siblings who had his father earlier on. And it just drives me crazy that so many math and science teachers seem to be the biggest issues when it comes to this. Just absolutely kill any interest in their subjects.
No, that's true. A lot of people say they hate maths, and I'm willing to believe that they weren't taught it properly, and that's why they hate it.
Especially since a lot of them, when you ask, why is that? A lot of people, when they hate math, they go, well, I had this third grade math teacher. I had this algebra teacher. Oh, okay. I now understand why you hate the subject.
Yeah. Like, I can also understand why people say, I hate reading, and it's based entirely on the books they were forced to read in English class.
Yep. Because there's nothing that ruins a book more than being forced to read through it at a very specific rate.
Yes.
Especially since there were teachers that they would get pissed at you if you read past the point where you were supposed to read. Way to kill the interest of the people that were actually enjoying the book.
I used to read ahead just to keep up with everyone else.
Yep.
I would read ahead just so I could fuck off while they were reading aloud in class and still be able to find my spot.
I was lucky that I got interested in reading before I started school. So when the English lessons came, it's like, it wasn't I hate reading, it's I hate these books. Like I was able to make that distinction. It's like, no, I love reading. I've got all these books at home. I wish I could be reading instead. I just hate this book.
That was like junior year English for me is when I really started. Like, I hate this reading list.
Yeah. And did you guys have the same thing that I did when it came to high school reading? Every year, did you have at least like 2 or 3 books that someone got raped in?
No,
not that I can think of. The reading list was fairly, I mean, I would say probably standard. If anything, it's probably lacking in my school district. Like freshman year, we read a lot of the like classic stuff. Lord of the Flies. I think they did Romeo and Juliet. Frankenstein. I think we covered the Odyssey, but I don't think we actually read the Odyssey. Like, I think we just went over like Greek mythology and stuff.
Probably excerpts from it, brother.
sophomore year. I don't really remember all the reading we did sophomore year. I remember we did Julius Caesar, though. That was actually kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a good idea to have kids have to read Shakespeare. Like, it's written in such an antiquated way that, like, it's going to be even harder to maintain interest. If you're like, a modern English book would be far better. Something that was actually, written in the way that they already speak, rather than thou and doth, and they basically have to learn another language or supplement the one that they know just to understand what the hell's being talked about.
Well, the sophomore English teacher I had, he did an all right job of the modernization of language. Like, okay, here's what they're actually saying. But it was cool because we just read through the play, with like the stage direction and everything. My freshman English, when we did Romeo and Juliet, that teacher, I'll give her credit. She would take like film adaptations as well and stuff.
Okay.
Like we got to watch Young Frankenstein instead of Frankenstein.
No,
Mhm.
fair
So
enough.
like I gave her good marks for that, but we also ended up watching that god awful Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio and John Leguizamo.
Clear Danes.
Yeah, see, I didn't even remember who the chick was, but yeah, like we didn't do any more Shakespeare. Junior year was mostly American lit, and then my senior year, I had dropped out of AP English by that point and just went to the regular standard class. And I remember the big one I remember reading that one was Beowulf.
Beowulf is amazing. And
I've noticed that, like, if I see a modern adaptation of a Shakespeare story, it's always a good story. It's just that if I were to sit down and read the play itself, it's like incredibly difficult to get through. Like, one of my favorite episodes of Just Shoot Me was based on King Lear, and it's like, this is actually a really good story. And it's just, if you gave me King Lear to read, I'd be bored within the second page. Like, what the fuck are they talking about?
I mean, that's why I liked Sons of Anarchy. It was just Hamlet on Harleys.
Yep, and the problem is that it's a selection of which of the Shakespeare plays you tend to have to read, because it's either the ones that are done to death to the point where they already know the story.
Yeah.
So it isn't interesting because they already know the story, unless they like the language, like Romeo and Juliet. Is there a single fucker on the planet that doesn't already know Romeo and Juliet's story before they start reading it in an English class?
I think, surprisingly, most people think it's like a straight love story instead of a tragedy.
True. You do have the people that think that it's a straight love story. So that
A lot of girls in my freshman English class were crushed when they realized that they didn't live happily ever after.
Oh, God.
They're just used to the Disneyfication of everything.
Yes.
But there's certain plays that, like Much Ado About Nothing, would be much better to read, in my opinion, than Romeo and Juliet. Because it has a faster pacing to the text. And also it has some amazing insults that even when you're kind of struggling through, you go, oh shit, let me write that fucking thing down. Hell yeah. And Taming of the Shrew is another really good one for its pacing.
Yeah.
And it also has the added perk of it's dirty as shit.
But like The Taming of the Shrew is another one. There's been so many modern adaptations of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're good. It's a good story. It's just that, yeah, I would much rather watch a modern adaptation movie than try and, slog through, Shakespearean language.
True. But it's still one of the more easily gone into ones than, like, Hamlet is an amazing story. A lot of people struggle in Hamlet.
Until you replace the characters with lions.
Macbeth, almost fucking everyone in the English classes I was in, other than the people that were G and, well, no, most of the English classes were G and T, but pretty much everyone was going, okay, this is really fucking dense. I get but goddamn. And there's certain things that could be read rather than going through the full thing. Just have excerpts. I keep on having problems saying that word. Excerpts from them. And then, watch the play versions and go into the importance of the story with that. I mean, for fuck's sake, I think everyone at some point in an English class should read the St. Crispin's Day speech, because that has such a driving thing into it. Once you get going in it, it becomes really difficult to stop reading St. Crispin's Day, because it starts off somewhat slow with what's he that wishes so, my cousin Westmoreland, no fair cousin. if we are marked to die, we are now to do our country lost. And then it just keeps on picking up. Even from that point, it's if we're marked to die, we're now to do our country lost. But if to live the fewer men the greater share of honor, God's will, I pray thee, wish not one man more by Jove. I am not covetous for gold, nor care I who doth feed upon my cost. It yearns me not. If men my garments wear, such outward things dwell not in my desires. But if it be a sin to covet honor, I am the most offending soul alive. No faith, my cuz, wish not one man from England. God's peace I would not lose. So great an honor as one man more methinks would share from me, from the best hope I have. From that point on, it's just this mad dash of a speech.
You baited this part of the conversation, didn't you?
Somewhat, yes.
I was actually going to make a joke that Johnny only looks like Prospero, so he's got free reign to recite it.
Well, actually, now that she's here, I can actually reference it only natural me taking this spot since I did count coup on Prospero earlier last year.
I thought you were a fisherman engine.
We all take the coup around here.
But yeah, like I said, Prospero, there's dense books. Like, yeah, I wouldn't recommend reading the entirety of, is it the 5th? I always remember one of the, no, Henry the 5th is the St. Crispin's Day one, isn't it?
I don't know.
It's the non-St. Crispin's Day one that is an absolute fucking slog.
Now, only one of the only books that I read in high school that was actually of any interest, it was called Fool's Crow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anyone's read it.
Can't say that I have.
Nope.
But man, I can't even remember. I can't remember the character's main name, but he inherits the name Fool's Crow. They were going in a raiding party, and he gets knocked off his horse and knocked unconscious. And when he starts to come to, he's approached by one of the crow, and he was going to get killed, and kind of like still faked. I mean, to go kill some pets. He faked being unconscious until the guy got to him, and then he ended up killing him. And that's how he got the name Fool's Crow. And that's literally one of the only parts of the story that I remember.
And Prospero says, that's Henry the Fourth, you spaz, you quoted enough.
I need to double check that because I could have sworn it's the 5th is the Agincourt, which is the St. Crispin's Day.
Is that the Band of Brothers one?
Yes, that's the speech I was just doing. The St. Crispin's Day is the we few, we happy few, we band of brothers. And
like I said, my Shakespeare ended after like sophomore year with Julius Caesar.
I was lucky that I never got forced to read Shakespeare, but I tried and it was awful. So I'm glad that I wasn't like, I didn't have grades writing on it.
Well, that one I think I enjoyed because it was, based on a historical figure. When I was growing up, you could still watch, the History Channel and see like, history of Rome and stuff.
Back before it was the Aliens channel?
Before it was aliens and truckers, yeah. But
I miss when the History Channel was actually history. It was amazing back then.
It seemed, as my recollection of watching the History Channel when it was actually based on history, it was all either like World War II or ancient Rome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not complaining. But so yeah, I like that, and I was also like in drama class by that point, so it was also they were doing like the actual. We're just going to read the play, You got the stage direction. See how they would have put it on back in the day. But
I did
go ahead.
just double check, and Prospero also corrected herself. It is the 6th that is the hellish one. The 5th is the fun one. That's the one that includes the Battle of Agincourt. And it could definitely not be the 4th, because the Henry IV died 3 years prior to the battle, or 2 years prior to the Battle of Agincourt. So it was the 5th that was reigning during the Battle of Agincourt.
Maybe he was a ghost king. Did you think of that?
Seems unlikely. I know that Macbeth had one of those, but... Or not Macbeth, Hamlet had one of those, but not
Yes.
the histories of the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. Yeah, the 6th was the absolutely painful one. And it was the longest of the 3, I think. Let me quickly double check if it was the longest
Lucky
of the
Mrs.
3.
Henry.
Yeah, it's the longest of the 3 because Henry the 4th is in 2 parts. Henry the 5th is all in one go. And Henry the 6th is fucking 3 parts.
I mean, dude, deserve a trilogy, or just was
Not
Billy
really.
getting wordy?
So for the Henry the Fourth and Fifth were Lord of the Rings, and Henry the Sixth was
The
The
Hobbit.
Hobbit.
See, I still haven't watched any of those movies.
No, me neither.
It isn't even that because, yeah, Henry the 6th, there's important things that happen, but it's just really dry. It's more like reading a histories than the other one, or the other 2, even though they're all 3 part of his histories. It's just really slow. It tries to cover too much. And because of that, it throws in an unnecessary depth of detail, which makes it boring as shit. It's kind of like the reason why when you look at ancient history is fascinating, because what do you know about ancient history? Well, this battle, this battle, this battle, this important fucking figure. Meanwhile, look at the history from 40 years ago in the US, and suddenly you're dealing with, so this tax document is outlining this important figure, and the fact that in this year he overpaid his taxes by 2%, which is important to keep in mind because, as you know, this figure then went on later to have some financial problems, which if he had not overpaid his taxes by 2%, he would have had enough money to cover that difference. And you're just going, someone fucking shoot me now. Is there a shotgun I can start? What the fuck? Whereas when you're going back far enough in the past and you're just in the mad blitz of these people kill people, it's fascinating.
Well, yeah, I mean, 40 years ago, that's what, Grenada?
Yeah.
But not a lot going on back then, man. I mean...
Well, it's more just the depth of, or the amount of information that we have. Like, you can make a World War II class that has almost nothing to do with the battles of World War II. It is entirely about the supply line issues of World War II, the political intrigue in World War II. And you're just going, oh my fucking god. And then you reach a section where it mentions a battle and you get excited because something interesting might happen. And then the rations were delayed by this and this and this. And you're going, fuck me. Is it possible to just die of boredom? Can that please be something that can happen?
Oh, Assassin. He says, I don't know how to pronounce that. It's directed and starring, was it Rafe Fiennes? I keep wanting to call him Ralph,
Rafe
even though,
Fiennes.
It's a contemporary take on Rome where they look like the United States Army. Insanely good. Oh, I'll have to check that out. is there like a streaming platform or anything that I could check that out on? I know there's a bit of a lag with the chat, so. But I did have a couple of things that I saw scrolling through the timeline before the show started. I wouldn't mind talking about if you guys have a minute.
I'm game, but it's Johnny's show.
Let's
What
go.
do you feel, Johnny?
Well, I know, Sanguine played the sports ball back in the day. This really won't interest Terry at all. Johnny, possibly, maybe, but it's Oklahoma related. Apparently, OU and Texas are joining the SEC, guys. Like that's gonna suck for the Sooners fans.
Hey, hold on. Let me find my shock.
Well, I know Pat, your boy Pat's is a OU fan.
Mm-hmm.
I like OSU because I'm a glutton for punishment. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting to me. It's like, all right, so how's that going to affect? Obviously the Big 12 is losing two more teams, which they had like 4 teams leave a decade ago now. So not even close to 12.
Well, you caught Prospero's attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're joining the SEC. Them and Texas both. So apparently Texas A&M was not crazy about it. They wanted to maintain being the only Texas team in the SEC, but apparently it passed unanimously. So they must have got over it.
When I hear OU, I just think Pokemon, because that's like one of the tiers that a Pokemon can be. So I'm just going to pretend you're talking about Pokemon.
Yeah, I think they're probably nuts. I don't think it's going to work out as well for them as they think. And I mean, how long are they going to have? How long are we going to have? Conferences at this point. I mean, it's just going to end up being like 4 or 5, conferences with 20 some odd teams each.
Mm-hmm. And
No, I think the last college game I watched was several years back, and it was a bowl game. And it was Texas Tech and Texas A&M, I think. And it was the last minute in the game, and I can't remember which team, but they were just lined up on the side of the field, just waiting to like storm as soon as the timer ran out. And the only thing I could think is, man, I hope that guy scores that touchdown just at the last minute. Because I just want that utter heartbreak that everyone's just, they're primed, they're ready to go.
Like that LSU Kentucky game.
Yeah. It's like, we got this in the bag. And then just at the last minute, they bring it in, and just everyone is like, no.
Yeah, I always think of that one game in particular. It's like LSU Kentucky. I don't remember what year it was, but Kentucky was up there looking to pull off the upset. And it was Jamarcus Russell was the quarterback for LSU. And he launched a pass down the field, managed to hit the dude, and they win the game. And they'd already dumped the Gatorade on the Kentucky coach and everything. It's like, oh man, you must feel like shit right now.
There is nothing like I thrive on chaos. I don't like misery. I don't like when something tragic happens to someone. But that shit right there, I live for. Like, just utter humiliation. It's greatness, and I live for those days.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing better than something completely disconnected to me, being utterly miserable, just on their own. Like,
some people just want to watch the world burn.
I may have a few water balloons filled with gasoline. That's all.
But yeah, it's the whole SEC thing. It's all about the money. They let OU and Texas into the SEC because they're going to bring in, I don't know how many more millions of dollars in revenue. But I don't know. I don't know how OU is going to fare. They're probably end up being like a middle of the road team at this point. They'll be middle of the pack in the SEC maybe. And I had one other thing that was Oklahoma related, and it came across right before we started going. It's from CNN. They had a segment where the Chiron says, Trump supporter speaks out on Matt Damon shadowing him. Matt Damon shadowed Oklahoma oil rig workers for his film Stillwater. Kenny Baker, drilling superintendent for Cactus Drilling Company, describes what it was like showing Damon the oil rigs and the town. Yeah, his new movie is called Stillwater, which named after Stillwater, Oklahoma. But it takes place in like France or something. He's playing an oil field worker, you know, and he actually went to Oklahoma and he met the salt of the earth people that, you know, he hates with a passion, I'm sure. But I just thought it was funny. It's like CNN is doing a segment on not even Matt Damon talking about going there. You know, it's like, we're going to talk to the guy that showed Matt Damon around. And they've had other stuff too. Like they've had specials like the history of the sitcom, and it's like, oh my God, are you guys a news channel or the TV Guide Network? What the fuck's going on here?
And the thing that I find weird is, from the sounds of it, there was absolutely no point where the fact that the dude was a Trump supporter was a central fact, but in the goddamn write-up, Trump supporter. Wait, why is that important? Why is that being mentioned?
Well, I mean, he had talked. Matt Damon had talked about going, you know, coming down here and, you know, meeting people and, you know, being invited into their homes and yada yada yada, and how, you know, they weren't anything like, you know, he thought they was. Like, no shit, you know.
They're just like me.
They're people too. Oh my God.
Except for my house is 10 times bigger than the shack that they let their dog sleep in.
It's like, yeah, Matt, you do know that like movies get made down here and shit too, right? Yeah, like I loved needling one of my best friends from high school because he went out to California to go to acting school. Originally, he was going to go study, you know, in New York, you know, stage production and stuff. He ended up going out to study film. And within a year of him leaving, we had like, I think 2 movies made in our hometown. It's like, yeah, dude, you could have just stayed if you wanted to be in the movies. I thought you wanted to be on Broadway.
There was a movie. Actually, it was, because it had already been made. Another one made on Ted Kaczynski.
Oh yeah.
And it's got Shartlow Copley as Kaczynski.
That dude from District 9?
Yeah.
Howlin' Mad Murdoch is playing. What? Oh, I'm sorry.
Kaczynski.
Okay. I mean, they had Paul Bettany play him before, so maybe.
How long did they plan on making this? Because
they already made it. For some reason, it because they showed it at in Germany. And yeah, I don't think it's even come to the United States yet. But yeah, it was filmed in my hometown, and they had an open casting. And I'm like, you know, this would be something I can see about getting my son, at least see if he'll try out for it. And I'm like, well, let me talk to his mom. You know, I don't want to just
And she said, "No, I'm not letting you get my son molested." Right?
Well, I mean, she did say no, but that's not the reason why. No, just for the fact that it was about the Unabomber. She's like, no, I don't want them. You know, I don't want him connected to that. And I'm like,
that's what you told us. Like, I literally ran into the man. I mean, he's.
Yeah. My dad hit him with a door. Like, I don't know how much worse you can get.
The kid's already 1 degree of Kevin Bacon away from him, honey.
Yeah, I was curious when it started because you guys have seen that Ruby Ridge has started getting talked about in the news again, right?
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, of course, I also follow different Twitter accounts, so like, there's Agorist and whatnot tweet about it quite often.
Yeah, when I heard when you just said that movie was coming out, I was going, oh, wait. Is that part of the reason why Ruby Ridge is coming back up so often?
Well, I mean, they're also bringing back Waco, too.
Yeah, but they're bringing back Waco because the schmuck that oversaw Waco is currently in charge of...
Well, no. Was it a movie, or did they make it like a series with that dude from Battleship and John Carter? What's his name? Taylor Kitsch?
Oh.
Yeah, he played David Koresh.
Okay.
That was like was it 2 years ago now?
Okay.
Maybe 3. I'm not sure.
And since we brought him up, Charlotte Copley's bacon number is 2.
I love that site.
I think it's hilarious. I'm only 3 degrees separated.
Well, I'm 1 degree separated. I watched a movie that had Kevin Bacon in it.
I don't think that's how it works, Terry. But okay. But yeah, those are the 2 things I saw that caught my eye because they were Oklahoma-related stuff. It's like, oh, well, that figures. They're jumping ship, and oh, that asshole. Okay. Night, Prospero.
And yes, the
Have a good
bacon number is the number of degrees of separation.
I mean, it was started out with just actors.
Yep.
There's a website, the Oracle of Bacon. I know this because Johnny and Terry and I have looked it up before.
Oh, yeah.
We have referenced it several times. Hey, Telek.
I don't know if I'm the one who showed it to you guys, but
yeah,
I knew about it years and years and years ago. I used to spend my lunch breaks just trying to find the most obscure actor I could, and I never got more than I think the most I ever got was a 4.
I mean, you got to go to like Chinese cinema to get like a 4 or above.
If you've heard of them, they are a 2 at most. If you haven't heard of them, they're in America, they're a 3 at most.
But yeah, like I knew about the game of 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, and I would play that with coworkers and stuff. But I didn't know about the website until you showed it to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I met who was it? I met Bill Goldberg, and who was he in? I did know, like, because I looked it up on the Oracle of Bacon to see what the number was. And like he was in a movie. Who was he in a movie with that was it was like Goldberg, then this one other person, and then Kevin Bacon.
Okay, so Goldberg was in Ready to Rumble with Oliver Platt. Oliver Platt was in Frost/Nixon with Kevin Bacon.
And then there's Kill Speed with Robert Patrick, who's in Jane Mansfield's car with Kevin Bacon.
So you've got a few different avenues to get your 3.
Wasn't Oliver Platt also? It wasn't just Frost Nixon that he was in with Bacon. I mean, he was in something else too, wasn't he?
But they only pick one.
Yeah.
I mean, you can click it every time, and you'll get different.
Links. Yeah. There's a button at the top that says "Find a different link," and you just. Oliver Platt was in Flatliners with Kevin Bacon.
I mean, I would count that as meeting somebody who was in a movie with him. I would count that towards the game, Assassin. What happens if you trained the man for a movie? I mean, if you train Kevin Bacon for a movie, then I would say that's 1 degree. You're a 1.
Yeah. Well, let's see what I would be, because the only one I can think of is I met Terry Pratchett. Let's see if he has a no. Okay, there's no link from Terry Pratchett to Kevin Bacon, according to the website.
Oh wow.
Because I know Terry Pratchett has been in like TV adaptations of his books, and I think there might have been even movies. So I thought maybe he would be able to be linked, but guess not.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
so I have a Bacon number of 2 to Kevin Bacon, apparently. Because
cool.
I met Arlie Ermy,
Ah,
and Arlie Ermy was in Murder in the First with Kevin Bacon.
Wow. So what was it like meeting the Gunny?
Oh, he was fucking awesome. Really just nice dude. And I met him at a Marine Corps marathon, if I remember correctly. My mom introduced me to him because she had met him previously and just got to chat with him for a bit. The thing that I remember the most was he was sucking down cigarettes almost as quickly as they could be lit.
but I just had a thought. If Assassin is got a Bacon number of 1, we've all been upgraded to Bacon numbers of 2 because we know him.
Yep.
So there you go. You got your number down, Camel.
Cool.
But yeah, so he was sucking down cigarettes and he's just shooting the shit and asking me about myself, all the standard small talk. And in the middle of it, after sucking down like his 3rd cigarette, he just, by the way, never start smoking. Horrible habit. Sucks down his 4th. And I'm just like, God damn.
Something he and I have in common. I tell everyone I meet, don't ever fucking start.
Yep. But yeah, he smoked like a fucking chimney, but really cool dude.
I think if there's anyone who would talk me into joining the military, it would be him, probably.
Mm-hmm. I still love how everyone knows how he got his role in Full Metal Jacket, right?
Yeah, he put in an audition where they were throwing tennis balls at him while he was yelling insults, and he never broke.
That actually was not how he got the part. That was one of the things that he did in order to keep the part.
Oh, he replaced the other dude who was going to be Gunner Sergeant Hartman, right?
Yep.
The guy who became the door gunner.
Yep, he was hired as just an advisor.
Right.
And when he was hired as the advisor, he was watching that big scene where he's doing the dressing down of each of the guys in the barracks. And he was going, no, that's bullshit. That you aren't doing it right. You aren't getting the right intonation. You need to do something like this. And was trying to explain. And the actor that has been hired for that part, had been cast for that part, effectively asked him, can you demonstrate it? And Arlie Ermy went, okay. And he kind of went to the point where he was supposed to enter, stood up nice and tall, and just went down the line, ripping the shit out of fucking everyone there with insults just off the top of his head. And the director went, we're swapping.
Wasn't that actor also? I can't remember his name now, because I'd seen a little like mini documentary on YouTube about him.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he also? Didn't he also serve as a Marine, or was he? He'd been prior service of some kind, hadn't he?
I think so. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah.
But he just hadn't done a stint like as a drill instructor or something like that.
But yeah, Ermi got it just because he was able to rip the absolute shit out of everyone at the drop of a hat. And then in order to get his lines down, he had the fewest number of lines written into the script hard because most of his shit was just, okay, we're going to throw you at them effectively. You rip the shit out of them. And he had also been drilling everyone on the physical fitness standards, so he was actually putting them through boot camp effectively. All the actors had to go for morning runs with him and shit like that, and he would show up in full drill instructor uniform, put them through their paces, and in order to get the lines that he needed to have down, the ones that weren't insult based, yeah, he would be trying to rattle them off the top of his head as the director and one of the assistants would just be pelting him with tennis balls. And if he broke concentration, dropped a line, flubbed a line, or anything like that, then he would start from the beginning and they would start pelting him again. And that was how he rehearsed that part and got the lines down pat so that he would be able to say them without any sort of hesitancy or acting like he was trying to remember. They were just completely flowing from him naturally. But like I said, the vast majority of the insults were ones that he either came up with on the spot or as he was going through the script. Because when he was first hired as a consultant, he was going through the script just going, oh, this insult doesn't work. And he would come up with a better insult, so those got written in. And he continued doing that after he got the part from replacing the guy who had it before him. It was really amusing story of just what the fuck chain of events. Especially since he kind of lucked into the part in general. It was his first part in a movie, and it was after he had, I think, just lost the job that he was doing in that area. So it was just this perfect storm of, oh shit, yeah, I can try to do that. And
he was doing stand-up, actually, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he started doing stand-up in order
after he got out of the Marines.
Yep. And just, he was living in the area. They came and he went, fuck it, I'll give it a go. Became the consultant and then went from being the consultant to being Hartman. And
yeah, as Assassin points out, I said Tim Colseri, that was the door gunner that he Arlie Emery replaced, Sergeant Hartman. Was not in Britain for most of the time while filming. Arlie Ermy was on set regularly, both as consultant, trainer, and military advisor, and worked his way into the role. Tim Colseri, he was in Los Angeles. I think he was doing test screenings and stuff, and they kept making him work for it. I think he was like for over a year, according to the documentary I watched, doing this, thinking he had this job, and then Assassin points out, says he correctly felt betrayed by Stanley Kubrick when told he was replaced. So Kubrick wrote that helicopter scene for him. Kubrick did it. Kubrick did that dude dirty.
But he did the right thing for the movie, but not the right thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
which he was kind of known for doing. I mean, shit, Shelley Duvall.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like the Shining.
Yeah. He
scared the shit out of that woman.
Yeah, he put her through hell in order to make it seem like she was at her wit's end and about to snap, because it turns out she was at her wit's end and about to snap.
Shows here, it is common misconception that much, if not all, of Arlie Ermey's dialogue during the Paris Island was improvised. In several interviews, Ermey himself stated that he worked closely with Kubrick to mold the script so it was more believable, while retaining certain dialogue crucial to Kubrick's vision. while filming the opening scene where he disciplines Private Cowboy, and he says Cowboy's the type of guy who would have sex with another guy and not even have the goddamn courtesy to give him a reach around. Stanley Kubrick immediately yelled cut and went over to Ermi and asked, "What the hell's a reach around?" Ermi politely explained what it meant. Kubrick laughed and reshot the scene, telling Ermi to keep the line.
Yep. And like I said, there were a number of the insults that were completely just off the top of his head in the moment. Another one that I think was that way, if I remember correctly, was the "How tall are you?"
I didn't know they stick shit that high.
Shit that high. Yeah, that one was also, if I remember correctly, one of the ones that was just in the.
Where are you from?
moment.
Texas.
God damn, there's only two things that come from Texas: steers and queers, and I don't see a set of horns on you.
I just think it's hilarious that Kubrick had to ask for an explanation of what a reach. After that line, it seemed pretty self-explanatory. Wouldn't you guys think?
Yep. But yeah, just the number of things that he did after that was also amazing. Because he was, of course, in a bunch of other things as a gunny or DI or shit like that. But then he was also just in random cartoons.
It wasn't until he started doing like those Rob Zombie movies or whatever. No, it wasn't Rob Zombie. It was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's what it was. When they remade the Hut.
I think so. I can't remember off the top of my head if it was Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah. I think it was Texas Chainsaw. They did a remake, and he was in it.
Yep, it is Texas Chainsaw. Two of them he was in.
Yeah, it's like before seeing that, I only ever thought of him as Gunnery Sergeant Hartman and Mail Call.
Yep. And then there was I want to say it was one of, what fucking movie was it? It was a comedy movie. And he was, say again?
The Frighteners.
Is that a comedy?
Yeah.
Was that the one where he was the PE teacher and then ended up gay by the end of the movie?
Oh, no. That wasn't that one.
I thought it was Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
There's one where he's a PE teacher and then he ends up getting married at the end of the movie.
Oh, that was Saving Silverman.
It was? Okay.
You know, I never actually watched that.
They just had so many weird roles that were just him having fun, as well as the roles that were him doing what he did as a drill instructor or gunny.
Yeah, I thought it was funny, like finding like an old interview he did. I think it was actually an interview promoting Full Metal Jacket, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And like they asked him like about getting out of the military or whatever, and that's when I found out he did stand up. I was like, oh man, if only there was some tape of that somewhere. I would love to see what he was joking about coming out of the Marines at that time.
And also the thing that is somewhat shocking when I met him, and also when you watch documentaries about him, if you haven't seen him outside of his roles, is he's fairly soft-spoken, or was fairly soft-spoken, rather. Which,
yeah, like when the interview I've seen with him where he was like just being himself. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, he was just kind of like, yeah, so this is what happened in that part. Whereas pretty much everything that he was in, he was just this loud and very commanding presence, using his DI/gunny voice for everything.
It's kind of weird when like you'll take a role like the warden in The Shawshank Redemption,
Mm-hmm.
and then put him in that episode of Monk where he plays.
Oh, that guy?
Yeah, where he plays Monk's ex-wife's dad,
Mm-hmm.
and it's such a stark contrast. So when you see him and you're just like, oh, that motherfucker. and then you see him how he's acting with them. Like, oh, I guess that's all right. Like,
I still say the best current actor that I know is a goddamn chameleon. You will watch movies with him, and you won't know who the fuck it is. And
We're talking about Gary Oldman?
Yes. Because The Fifth Element and Leon the Professional, you can be looking at the pictures of those characters side by fucking side and still be going, this is two different people. That man just fucking disappears. And he's amazing for it. He can play a ridiculous number of different types of roles. And he just becomes that character. There's a lot of other actors. Some of them can occasionally do that. And they're kind of standout performances when they do that. He does that every fucking movie. I have never really once seen a movie with Gary Oldman where Gary Oldman's on screen and I'm going, that's Gary Oldman. But like Bruce Willis, there is not a single Bruce Willis movie where you're looking at Bruce Willis going, that's not Bruce Willis. The closest he got to that was, is it 16 blocks or 13 blocks?
16 blocks.
16 blocks?
Oh, the one where, was it him and Most Def?
Yep.
Yeah.
Where he's the old kind of beat to shit detective. That one, you can still tell that it's him, but he disappears more into that role than any other role that I've seen him in. But Gary Oldman, every fucking movie. Where the hell is that man?
Like
that character's Gary Oldman? Son of a bitch!
He's taken on so many accents that he actually forgot what his actual voice sounds like.
Mm-hmm. That just reminds me of... Terry will probably find this amusing. Terry, you knew that Monty Python and Peter Sellers were fairly close, right?
I don't know specifics, but I've heard that.
So they would often end up going over to his place, having drinks, having dinner, shit like that. And one of the times that they were staying at his place, John Cleese was telling this story at one point, where he went down in the morning and Peter Sellers was already up and was starting to make breakfast for everyone. And as he's talking to Peter Sellers, with every single sentence that he utters, is using a different voice. And it isn't something that, like, it's obvious that he's putting on a show or anything like that. No. John Cleese is almost positive that what was going on was Peter Sellers forgets what he sounds like. And John Cleese was just there to witness his morning routine of, what the fuck is my voice?
Was there a movie based about Peter Sellers?
Possibly. I can't remember if there was. I know that he had one of
They made a movie about Dalton Trumbo. I'm pretty sure they probably made one about Peter Sellers.
Probably. I know that Peter Sellers had one of the best and creepiest things from the Muppet Show ever.
The Life and Death of Peter Sellers.
Oh, it's with Jeffrey Rush, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm like, I could have sworn there was a movie.
Did you guys ever watch the Muppet Show when you were growing up?
Sometimes.
Very early childhood, but...
Do you remember the part that Kermit would do that was his on-the-wall talks with the guests?
No.
Very vaguely. My one enduring memory of the Muppet Show is Mana.
But yeah, Kermit would do this part of the Muppet Show that was on the wall with Kermit, effectively. And it was standard interview, but it was done by Kermit the Frog. And he would just be sitting on a wall talking to the guest for the show that day. And Peter Sellers refused to do the on the wall scene. It would normally just be during the first time that they were on, or if they hadn't done it in a extended period of time, they'd do another on the wall. But Peter Sellers refused to do the on the wall scene. So they did something else to take place of the on the wall scene. And it led to one of the weirdest things, because it was Peter Sellers trying to remember a speech that was done by Queen Victoria, but he had forgotten what Queen Victoria looked like. So he was wearing a Viking helmet with a very tightly laced corset and the underclothes from the Edwardian era.
Dr. Strangelove indeed.
Other things that were just, what the fuck? Like he was wearing a Pippi Longstockings-esque wig at the time. And Kermit walks in on this. And
see, you're painting this picture, and I can't tell if I'm just listening to you describe it or if I've actually seen this before.
Yeah. And Kermit walks in and kind of has a understandable, what the fuck? Reaction, and then it goes into them talking, and Peter Sellers utters one phrase that sticks with me, which was, Kermit said something along the lines of, well, just be yourself, and Peter Sellers leans in to Kermit the Frog and says, that's the thing, I had me surgically removed years ago. What the fuck, Peter Sellers? So yeah, that line, just anytime that I hear someone say, be yourself, just, I had me surgically removed years ago, pops into my head because of that.
I'm starting to fade out a bit.
Well,
It's been
we have been going almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are in charge tonight as the trainee keeper.
All right.
When you want to close out?
I guess. What kind of parting thoughts do we have?
OU and Texas suck. Go Pokes.
Okay. Terry, do you have anything you want to say?
I am mildly irritated at Australia Post for not delivering my board game yet.
What board game?
It's called 50 Clues. It's sort of like a basic escape room puzzle solving thing, but apparently the story is you're a mentally ill woman who thinks that she's doing all these really nice, helpful things, but is actually doing just utterly horrific stuff. And I'm very curious to see how this plays out. Like, what kind of horrific things? If it's believable that she could genuinely think she's helping. So I'm very curious to see how the whole thing unfolds.
Mrs. White in the conservatory with a candlestick. That's how. That's my guess.
Spoiler alert.
And I'll leave off with my standard of, if you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you.
And whenever I hear Monty Python, the only thing I can think of is this bird has ceased to be.
It has joined the choir invisible.
But on that, the zoo is closed.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good
Bye,
night.
everybody.
Have a good night, all. And once my mouse comes alive again, I'll be able